So let me go ahead and close this. Make sure you can hear me and see. Yes, you should be seeing right now the Church Windows logo or the opening screen of Church Windows on the screen. Again, we're going to look at scheduler reports today. Before we begin, I just want to show you the material I'm using today is taken from one of our workbooks. And if you're interested in purchasing the workbook or the written material that I'm using to show you, if you look on our website, along the left side under Church Windows Training, if you click on the link Workbooks, you'll see a list of all our different workbooks. They're available for $12 each, where you download and print your own, or we can send you a pre-printed bound copy for $22 each. Lot better savings if you print your own. But if you look, this is taken from the Scheduler 102 book. The book mostly covers reports. It goes into a lot more detail than we will today. It talks about on the actual preview some of the things you can do there. Today we're just going to look at the reports that are available in Scheduler. I won't go into lots of detail because we only have 20 minutes. Now my clock on my computer lower right, I think you guys can see that. Our server on some of our computers for some reason lags a few minutes behind, but I know my cell phone and the desk phone both said it was 2, so for time's sake I wanted to make sure I started on time for everyone, but the computer clock here that we see is a little behind. Anyway, Scheduler 102, pages 20 through I think it's 27, 29 is what I'm going to be using today. So if you happen to have the books, then you could pull that out and look. Now, as we upgrade and change things and change books around, those page numbers could change slightly. I know I've been editing the workbooks now that Kay has retired, and some of those were taking out extraneous screenshots, or they may change slightly. So your page numbers may differ slightly if you have an older book, or when newer versions come out and I update books, they may change again. But the material I'm using printed wise can be found in the Scheduler 102 book. Right around page 20 is where it starts on Scheduler reports. All right, if this is your first time using the GoToWebinar function, on your GoToWebinar toolbar, if you open up the question panel, you can type questions in that area. I think we have a lot of techs out or sick today. I'd ask Ross if he would answer questions for me, but I don't see him in the room, so I don't know if he forgot or he's on a call, but I think I'll be all right with answering questions on my own if he doesn't join us. But if you type your questions in the question panel, you might want to hold off until the end of what I'm going to show you, see if your question gets answered as I work through the material. But then I'll keep my eye on the question panel, but probably I'll just answer questions. I'll wait until the end and look at the questions and answer them at the end of what I want to show you. Just out of respect for everyone who's come to learn about scheduler reports, if you could keep your questions topical. If you have questions pertaining to your specific data or another module, it'd be better to give us a call or email support@churchwindows.com and we can help you out. All right, so let's go ahead and look at Scheduler. I'm going to open it by just clicking on the word Scheduler on the opening screen for Church Windows. Real quick, if you didn't notice, on that opening screen in the upper right corner, oops, I guess I can't get my highlighter and have Church Windows stay up, so I was going to try to highlight it for you, but it makes it disappear when I click on my other screen to get the highlighter. Upper right, though, just above the word church, you should see version 19.16.1, so that is the most current version of the program. Scheduler hasn't had too many changes. I think it's an underutilized module, or it is pretty easy once you learn it to understand how it works. We don't get a lot of calls about it. So let me go ahead and show you. Now today, again, we're looking at scheduler reports. So we're assuming you've already set things up, you've got events on your calendar. Let's go ahead and click on in the upper left corner the word reports, and we'll just go down the line. The first report available is the calendar report. If I click on calendar, that opens up and we see calendar options. You can do two different layouts here. You can ask for an entire month or just a week within a month. So let's go ahead first and look at a week. We'll look at this week. It reads off your computer clock. It will default to the current month it sees from your computer clock, which is November. If we choose week, then just below the month, we have to choose the starting day for the week we'd like to see on the report. So we'll ask for the week starting Sunday, November 6th. And we can also right here on the screen look at different years if we like. We're going to go ahead and look at 2016. Now, if we look over towards the right, we have three tabs here. The Content tab we'll look at first. Defaults to show the time before the subject, and we also are showing the start time. Actually, if I uncheck start time, notice show time before subject grays out. So if you want to show the time before the actual subject of that event, we have to check start time for it to let us check show time before subject. We can also choose to show the location of that event if we filled in a location when we set the event up. And we can change whatever heading we have on that calendar. Let's do week starting November 6th. And let me go ahead. Oh, here we go. I'm looking at my printed material. I'm just not used to having printed material. It's a new thing we're doing. I'm used to just kind of going. So if I go to selections, we'll talk about this a little more after we just look at the reports. I'll go in a little more detail about that with the event report. But we can narrow down to different locations, categories, equipment, contacts, duties, or duty assignments, and people or events that meet different criteria for those. And we can also change the font on our calendar if we like. Let's just click print. Oops, it changed, took that away there. Here we go. And we'll go back to week starting Sunday, November 6th and click print. It should bring up a preview. And here we see just for the week starting November 6th, all of the events we have scheduled within the scheduler module so far. Now here we show the time after the actual event description. If you'd like the time to show first, then I can check show time before subject. And now if I click print, it brings up a preview where it shows the time first. I like that better because then you can actually see it right off the bat. Now, the only different thing we can do here is if you'd prefer, rather than just a week, we could also do the entire month. So I could select month, and then week starting grays out because I'm doing an entire month. Now if I click print, brings up a standard, monthly calendar where it shows everything that I've scheduled for the month of November. All right. Now if you'd prefer, we have a page setup button in the lower right. That might look better on landscape. So if I click on page setup, I can change from portrait to landscape. A few other settings I can change here as well. If I change it to landscape and click print, has a nice calendar going landscape on the page. I think that looks nicer. All right, so that is the calendar report. Let's go ahead and look at the next thing on the list, the event report. This is a very powerful tool, and it's going to give you a calendar, but based on text. It's not going to be boxes like a wall calendar where you see for each day what's scheduled there. You can get a lot more information on the event report because it is a text format rather than little boxes for each day with limited information in it. So here on our event report, first we can choose a start and end date. So here it doesn't even have to be the entire month. It defaults to the month, which we'll go ahead and look at that for today. But we could choose a different range if we like. We can tell it to group by certain items if we like. We're going to go ahead and group by date because we want to see things sequentially or chronologically. We're going to go ahead and go with November. Notice here on the Content tab, I have all these different things that I can check or uncheck to show on the event report. I have everything checked, but if you only need limited information, you could specifically check what you need. On the Format tab, here we can do some different page options, whether there's lines between each thing, whether we put page numbers on it, whether there's a header or not. You can also put your own header in if you'd like. We'll call it November Events. And if you'd like, you can have the current day and time in that report as well. Sometimes that's useful if you print a lot. Then you know whether you're looking at the most current printout or not. And then let's look at the Selections tab. Now on the Selections tab, if I wanted to maybe just see certain locations, actually let's just look at this real quick before I narrow down to any selections here. Let's just see it without narrowing down. If you look, as I said, it's just more a text format of all of my different events because I haven't narrowed down to any specific categories or locations or anything. If we go through that, I could use the arrows at the top or the scroll along the bottom. It's just a nice text format of all of my different events. So if we close this, now if I'd like, let me make sure I'm going by the book here. The book now goes on to show you only events where duties are not complete. On the Selections tab, you can assign duties to people for events, and then you can even select different people who are fulfilling those duties. You might want to report to see what duties are not assigned to someone. On the Selection tab along the bottom, I can check Show Only Events Where Duty Assignments Are Not Complete. And now if I click Print, brings up one item. It tells me Sunday, November 13th. Looks like I need 2 ushers or greeters. Normally, if a duty is complete, I'd see who I'd assign to those, but here we see no one is assigned as greeters next Sunday. So that's a good report. The duties not complete report on that event report, that's a good report to see if you assign people to different things and you want to know what you still need to get filled. You can check there to show only events where duty assignments are not complete. All right, now on the Selection tab, maybe I want to narrow down to certain location or categories or any of these different items. If I wanted maybe to just see a certain location, I would check which of the different selections, and I could do more than one if I like. The default is to look at everything, but maybe I just want to see what's occurring in the gym. So I can ask for location, and then click the location button, and then I'd uncheck all, and then I just check off what I would like to see. So here I'm just looking at the gym. I can say OK. Now if I click Print, the only thing I'm going to see are items, get my spotlight here, where the assigned location is the gym. You can see that here. You can see each of these youth basketballs is occurring in the gym. All right. Now I can do that again for any of these different items: location, category, equipment, contacts, duties, or duty assignment. All right, so we have a report that looks like your standard wall calendar with the little squares that gives you limited information about each event, or the event report in text format, which you can show anything and everything you've entered for an event. Let's look at the next item, conflict report. If I click on that, the only thing I can do here is some different arrangements for my page, whether I have lines, multiple items, page numbers, header text. Let's just go ahead and click Print. What this will do is if I've scheduled more than one item in the same location, the event report will let me know. Or I'm sorry, conflict report will let me know that there's a conflict in those locations. Here we can see we scheduled both the basketball and the volleyball to occur at 6 p.m. in the gym. So either we're going to have them share the gym, or we might want to reschedule or move one of these meetings elsewhere. And again, the conflict report is a nice report to check and make sure you haven't scheduled things to occur in the same place. So here, if I go and look on the 22nd of November, indeed we see there's youth basketball and volleyball, both scheduled 6 to 8 in the gym. All right. So those are the reports that give you information on what's on the calendar, what events you've actually scheduled on the Church Windows scheduler. If we go to reports, there's the top 3. We see 5 other reports. These are pretty basic reports. Each of these: category, duty, equipment, location, and people. If I click on one, basically what these give you is a list of that item and what you have set up. So here in category, we can see the different categories we've set up so far. Default is for all of those to be checked to show on the report. I could uncheck and just choose some if I'd like. I can also include notes if I'd like, if I put notes for those items. And like the other format tab, I can choose to have lines, page numbers, a specific header. But if I click print, this report is just showing me the different categories I have set up for use on my events within the scheduler module. So pretty straightforward there. Same goes for duty report. The duty report comes up. I see all the different duties I've set up so far in scheduler. I can include notes if I've added notes for those duties. Format tab is the same. If I click print, I see the different duties I've set up that I can use when I'm scheduling an event in the scheduler. Probably sensing things are a little similar here. Yes, these are all these last 5 reports are all just basically showing you the items you have already set up within Church Windows. So here is all the equipment we have set up in our Church Windows scheduler module. A little more I can do here with the equipment. I can show the location if I've assigned one to that piece of equipment. If I've assigned a category, I can show that. Any notes. If I've added people as contacts with their phone number to be in charge of a piece of equipment, I can show that as well. Format tab is the same, but then if I hit print, this gives you a little more than the first 2 we were looking at. Here we can also see the notes and the categories that we've assigned for some of these. It's a nice compact list of all the equipment we've set up in the scheduler module. And then we have our people report. If I go to the people report, this defaults to show people. I'm pretty sure the checks are people we've pulled into Church Windows. I could check all. I'm not going to check all because the report will probably be huge. I'm just going to click on report. That brings up my people report options where I can choose who's going to be there. If I want their phone and address, format tab is the same. And if I hit print, it's a nice list of the different people I've put or chosen to come across from my membership module into scheduler as possible contacts or people I can assign to duties or events. And then last or not least, oops, I skipped one. I jumped to people. Let's look at the location report. I didn't even notice I did that. Sorry about that. Jumped over one. The location report shows the different locations we've set up in scheduler. And then we can choose to include any of these items of content. And on this, we can also narrow down to locations that we've put in a certain category if we'd like. We're going to look at all of them. And then the format tab, that is the same. And if I click print here, we can see a detailed list of all the locations we've set up within scheduler that we could use on our different events. So the reports in scheduler, I think once you see them, they're pretty straightforward. The first two are the ones you'll use the most, I think, when you want to print a calendar to see what events you've scheduled in Church Windows. The calendar being the little squares like a calendar on your wall versus the event report being more text just written out. A conflict report is really great to make sure you haven't scheduled 2 things in the same location. The last 5 reports, those I don't see getting print it as often because those are more to show you what what categories, duties, equipment, location, or people you have available already within your Church Windows Scheduler module. But the ones that really show you the things you have put on the calendar are those top two reports, the calendar report and the event report. These last five, those are the same as if you were to go to setup and categories. Any of those setup screens, if you were to go to those and click report, that is the same report you'll get from the different setup areas as these last five reports here. So if you go to setup duty or setup equipment, you can print the same report from those setup screens as well, which is a list of the items that you've already set up in Church Windows for whichever of these different items you've gone to. All right, so pretty straightforward, I think, the reports within the Church Windows Scheduler module. I saw some questions come in. Let me look. Somebody asked, is there a way to embed the current month church calendar from Church Windows on our website? You can if you go up to Reports and Calendar. If we click Print, I didn't really go into everything, all the print preview or print options. That's a different section of the book, hence why I didn't really go into it today. But you can, if you go up to Export and click this little arrow just to the right of that, I could choose Image File and make any changes here I like for image export. Say OK and choose where I want to save that. I'm just going to put it on my desktop and click Save. I'm not going to open it. I'll just go directly to it and show you. Whoops. If I go look on my desktop, I see a November calendar. And if I open that, this is an HTML or an image, not an HTML, but an image file that you could then take over to your website and put on your website if you'd like. So again, let me delete that off here so the next tech who uses this doesn't have it sitting there. But again, if I went up to Reports and Calendar and I actually bring up a preview of that calendar, then I can, there's also HTML files. So depending on whether you want an image file or an HTML file, you could do either of those. And you should be able to put those on your actual website. Now, putting on your website, that your webmaster would have to do that. We're not as helpful with websites as we are with how to use Church Windows. Not because we wouldn't want to help, but we just wouldn't know. Probably our webmaster would, but I wouldn't. You're welcome. Somebody asked, is there a way to print a range of dates, for example, if I wanted November 27th to December 10th? On the actual calendar report, no. I can either do a month or a week. I can't do, an odd range. But on the actual event report, once that comes up, here I could do November 27th through December 10th. So on the event report, you put in the date range you would like to see. And here it's starting with the 27th. I'm going all the way through 12/10. So while, no, you cannot do that on the actual calendar that looks like the calendar on your wall, you can do that on the event report. So that was the second option under reports. There you put your actual start date and end date, so you could do whatever range you like on the event report. All right. I'm sorry, we went a little over. If I look at my clock, my actual cell phone or the clock on the wall here and on the phone here, we're over by a little bit. I do apologize. If you need to leave the webinar, just you can close out with the X on your GoToWebinar toolbar, and that will exit you from the webinar. However, I can stick around and answer more questions. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and type those in the question panel. Someone asked, is it possible that choosing a range of dates on the calendar report would be an option in a later update? I don't know. I can certainly suggest that for the programmers, but I do not know. Someone asked, can you put an end time on the calendar? Currently, no. It will only show the beginning time. But I can certainly add that to suggestions as well. More questions? waiting to see if there's more questions. I'm going to write these suggestions down, so arrange on the calendar. And end time. All right. Any other questions? If you're in the middle of typing a question, you might want to hit enter and then continue typing the rest of your question. That way I'll see you're in the middle of typing and not close the room without answering your question. But I think, yeah, the reports are pretty straightforward. Scheduler, I think, is pretty straightforward. Once you play around and learn it, it's pretty easy to use. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's user group or webinar. Thank you so much for attending. Do take a look on our website at upcoming webinars. They are free. If someone else signed you up for this and you weren't aware of these webinars, if you go to our website and then under Church Windows Training, click on free online webinars. That will take you to the page where you can see all the topics that are available. November is up. And also at the very bottom is a link to our YouTube channel. We do record these webinars or user groups, and once they get cleaned up and standardized, I believe every Thursday we put new ones up. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see all the different webinars available that you can watch at any time. These are all free as well. All right. Thank you so much for attending. I'm going to go ahead and close the room. Have a great day, and I'm sure I'll talk to you on the phone or see you in another webinar or user group in the future. Have a great day, and get out and vote tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.